Hola, buenos días. Perfecto.
Hi, good morning. Perfect. Good morning to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, be very welcome to this parallel session number 8, Mobility of Persons, Sustainable and Accessible. I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation to Zoom Bilbao. It's a pleasure to present this session with an exceptional panel. We have got here Eneko Goya, who's the mayor of San Sebastian. Be very welcome, Mayor. We also have got Rafaela Romero, who is foral councillor of the territory in Guipúzcoa. Welcome, Rafaela. Luis Vélez Santiago, councillor of mobility of the Valladolid Town Hall. Be very welcome, Luis. Lucas Casanova, he corrects himself, Lucas Casasnovas, as we were joking yesterday in San Mamés in this fantastic dinner offered by the organization. Thank you so much for that. He's the General Director of SEAT MOB, and then we are going to finish with Julio Antuyano. Here on the other part of the row, who's the President of Mobility of Argentina. Thank you so much for having come here to be with us this morning.
Well, I think this panel is very interesting because we are dealing with accessible, sustainable mobility. We don't hear that much about accessibility. And actually, what we need is accessibility, access to the different uses of the territory. So there should be a right not to mobility, but a right to accessibility. Accessibility is not motorized mobility. So I think the best thing we can have is short distances into human scale in the city. This panel will be about this and other topics. And we'll start by giving the floor to the mayor of San Sebastian. Well, thanks a lot. Good morning. Well, I'll try to use the time you have given me. When I was preparing this presentation for today, I have to confirm that San Sebastian is now in a process of change in terms of mobility. One of the main revolutions we have in our city now is this one, this challenge. And I'd like to explain without going into detail, because it's no use telling you about the specific streets of San Sebastian, but I'd like to give you an overview of what are the main points of this transformation. We got several projects that we are running or we are designing, and I'm sure that when we implement them all, we'll have a more sustainable and convenient city. And we understand this challenge from two perspectives. The first one is the fight against climate change. San Sebastian has a plan, San Sebastian Climate 2050, where we have set a roadmap to reach some goals. We know that 40% of the CO2 emissions in our city are coming from transportation, so it is clear we have to do something with transportation. We have set ourselves a goal for 2030, which is that 55% of the travels within the city would be walking or by bicycle. This is an ambitious goal, and that means we have to work in several lines. The first one is reducing motorized transportation and extending the urban estate devoted to walking or cycling. In all cities, the urban space is limited, and also in San Sebastian, and I think we are a good example due to our scale. we have streets that are quite narrow, and then we have to choose what is the priority use, the priority purpose we want for those spaces. And if we have set ourselves a goal that the 55% of travels in our city should be by walking or cycling, it is clear we should devote as much space as possible for this purpose by devoting some areas for pedestrian traffic. For example, near the Cathedral of Buen Pastor, and also other streets, and also the configuration of a cycling route network we were pioneers in creating cycling routes, and we have developed that a lot, but I think we have to do more for the future. When we need to have a perspective for doing this, which is important because sometimes in a municipality we have a tendency to analyze our city only from the point of view of the city hall, because this is where we are, and also within the limits of the municipality. This is where we have competences. But also in the case of San Sebastián, we should look for the solution to this, taking into account the whole suburban area, the metropolitan area of San Sebastián. This is where the response to mobility should be found. We must design solutions for a wider space. And we have here the Guipuzcoan Deputy of Mobility and Territory, and she knows that we have to do it this way. There are some key elements that will help us give this response we want to give. The first one is to focus on railroad transportation. I want to emphasize this because this is where we are carrying out an ambitious transformation with the transformation of the pathway of Topo that will deliver reliable commuting railroad traffic. Also, the commuting network of the Spanish Renfe, the Spanish railroads, that should be combined with the Basque railroads, with the Euskotren, and then we would have a very good traffic options connected with the center of the city that will service many inhabitants of the territory of Guipúzcoa. And there are also some other actions that I think are important that we should address and will address in the near future. This is an important project, which is the limitation of the access of private cars to the city center of San Sebastián. We're working on this project to deploy a system of access control, but then we'll have to implement a system for the management of this access control to see who, how, and why can access the city center. And then we have a pilot project for doing this in the city center of San Sebastián. And this is not only because of an environmental cause related with CO2 emissions or the air quality, but also because this is necessary to take back urban space. At the beginning we have said we want to focus on walking and cycling, so we need to release space. So it's no use if we have electric cars going into the city center. Of course, if some cars are allowed, there should be electric, but there should be fewer cars. And this is clear. I also wanted to mention the special role of public bicycles. And I do this based on a success experience. We have had so far 3 systems of public bicycles in San Sebastian. 2 of them didn't work, and we're about to see a success story with the 3rd option. It was deployed less than 1 year ago, and now it has over 6,000 users, which is twice as many as the other options. So that shows you that we are being successful with this system, even though the network of public bicycles is not complete yet. According to a study by OCU, we are one of the top 5 cities in Spain in terms of public bicycle services. And one of the main reasons is that we have a better distribution of stations. So what could explain the success of the use of public bicycles within the city center of San Sebastian? Well, several aspects. First, it was understood as a public service, and it was built as a public service. We had a market research, a previous research that was very good to understand which should be the routes included. And also we wanted to be in connection with the bus company of San Sebastian for developing this project. Nowadays, it is managed by Compañía Tranvías San Sebastián, the tramway company of San Sebastian. And I think this is important because this is a change of philosophy and a change in the way of doing things that is working very well. So we believe that if we are able to extend this to the rest of the city, they will continue managing it in the future, and we could go beyond San Sebastian, beyond the city, and into the metropolitan areas so that we can serve the municipalities that are near San Sebastian and that are well connected with San Sebastian with cycling routes. So this was one project I wanted to point out, but we also want to focus on the use of private bicycles. And we know that in the case of San Sebastian, as in the case of many other cities, one of the handicaps we have for fostering the use of private bicycles is parking, bicycle parking. So we have been working to equip the city of San Sebastian with stations to park bicycles, roofed stations with some security measures. We have several points and we want to deploy more points, more stations. I have to say it was not easy to start because changing the mindset of people, changing the way they do things is not easy. But you get results at the end of the day, and we believe we should be making this effort. Well, before I finish my time, I'd like to say that, as I've said at the beginning, in the case of San Sebastian, and I believe in the case of many cities, we are about to see a dramatic transformation that would probably be accelerated by the next projects that we are trying to access and that will help us fund all this transformation, because this is a key issue. If we want to address transformation, urban transformation, and a transformation of the model of mobility that we have in cities, we have to think of funding for the transformation and for the sustainability of this transformation. I mean that with the passing of time, this system of public transportation that we want to migrate to should keep on working. And there is a law that's been developed now, and it will be very important. It should establish the necessary components and elements for a public transport system to have some possibilities for funding, for long-term funding, that will keep us working for a long time. Thank you very much.
Eskerrik asko, Neko. Muchas gracias.
Well, thanks a lot. You have said something very interesting. You said focusing on non-motorized mobility, cycling, walking, redesigning the public space, and also railroads. You have mentioned that. Here, bicycles are very important in the metropolitan scale because it allows, together with public transportation, to increase accessibility, and especially for the suburban areas. So, after what you have said, I think it's the right moment for Rafaela Romero just to move into a higher scale. I will speak standing so that I can take away the mask.
Sí, buenos días a todos y a todas.
Well, thanks, everyone. Well, I think the mayor of San Sebastian has mentioned some of the issues that are related with mobility that are common to the capital city, Donosti, San Sebastian, and the rest of Gipuzkoa. And that goes for the cycling and the walking routes. I just have to say that San Sebastian is a reference in this regard, as well as Gipuzkoa, because also the cycling routes and the walking routes between villages, it's a very good situation. We have a province plan for cycling routes and also a cycling strategy, so we are a reference. But I think that according to the principles that have been mentioned by the mayor of San Sebastian, it is true that we are in a territory that has always been very good in terms of sustainable mobility, so I agree with him. Our mobility, the mobility we're looking for, is distinctive. It aims to make a difference. We work so that everyone living in our territory can use their right to get as far as they know, no matter where they live or no matter the income. And I said to use our right because the right to mobility is an individual and a collective right, and this is according to the funding law in its justification. It's what is called a meta right, so a right of rights. So if this is an essential right, the administration has to guarantee the offer of a mobility system with conditions of sustainability and accessibility that allows the mobility of people around the territory to cover their needs. This is a basic right that is guaranteed by public transportations. These are different concepts, but they go together, the right to public transportation and the right to mobility, because the right to mobility cannot be guaranteed in universal terms without public transportation systems with the best standards, that is efficient, effective, safe, and a quality service. In Gipuzkoa, we aim to have a public transportation system that covers these rights, covering these standards based on equity, because public transportation should guarantee this right, because as an element for the cohesion of the territory and for the equity in the territory, it helps for the access to employment, school services, health services, and any other services which are essential. This is a mobility that has to be sustainable in all aspects, in terms of environment, in terms of economy, and socially. How is this mobility? Well, it is when it follows, it's in line with this inverse pyramid of mobility that we all know. First, pedestrians, that should be on the more universal level with the lower environmental impact. Then cycling, which has many benefits. Then public transportation, collective public transportation, tramways, buses, commuting trains, etc. It is more environmentally friendly, lower emissions, it uses less public space and it saves money for the users. And in order to optimize its potential, it should be an interconnection between the different modes of transport, and then transportation of goods, and then private vehicles on the last place, which is the less sustainable mode of transportation. Therefore, the future strategies of mobility should include measures, and we are planning, having this in mind, measures that should result in a much more sustainable system compared to the ones based on private vehicles. And what do we mean by economic sustainability of public transportation? Well, this is funding of the public transportation in order to be able to compete with the private transportation. Stability and security and safety is essential for this offer to be delivered in the quality conditions it requires. Sustainable mobility should have a funding system to guarantee the fulfillment of its social goals. This funding must be defined and must be continued in time with the participation of the administrations involved, and I explain how we do it in Guipúzcoa. As for the social sustainability of the public transportation, it would be naive to think that mobility reaches all social levels and that it is equally distributed. This is not true because people with higher incomes and with more resources to mobilize, to move and to use public transportation. So it is essential to guarantee democratic right to mobility with equal opportunities and access to essential rights and services so that everyone, all citizens, can move as they want, no matter where they live and no matter what their income level is.
La accesibilidad universal implica
Universal accessibility entails the existence of a transport mode that connects the infrastructures and the resources of the citizens to use it. If there is not a public transport offer, the families that don't have the resources to pay the prices of private transportation cannot leverage all this structure of opportunities of the welfare state. Therefore, public transport services are essential to guarantee that we all have the same opportunities. This is universal accessibility for everyone that we have mentioned. In the case of Guipúzcoa, is the case of Muri. In Guipúzcoa, we work to guarantee the right of citizens to have a public transportation system that guarantees equal opportunities and that has a sustainable model which is socially, environmentally, and economically sustainable. We started in 2013 with all public transport operators were united in the Guipuzcoan Authority of Transport that makes possible the implementation of a unification of prices and also of a transport card, the Mugi transport card for all citizens of the province of Guipúzcoa. Nowadays, we are doing very well in terms of mobility, and this is due to the effort of all administrations, because it is all administrations, and we are the only territory where we have total interoperability of all operators of public transportation with the same prices, with a unification of tariffs and prices. So we are the only territory with a unique ticket for all options of transportation. This is the Mugi card, which is not only a money card, because this is a card where you have your rights, where the citizens of Guipúzcoa have the rights to travel on all modes of transportation, both in the city and between cities, and always with the same pricing policy. So in terms of the development of the system of public transportation together or in combination with this Mugi card, we've got this interurban system of transportation, which is road transportation, and its lines service and 80% of the population of the territory. The network of the public transportation of Guipúzcoa, Mugi, absorbs over 200,000 trips a day, according to the updated data of the DGT of 2019, before the pandemic. I'm about to finish the presentation. So this Mugi card offers, with this system of price integration, integrated prices, that more we use more. Use this card more, because the more you use it, you get better discounts, and it has better prices that for people that have some situations, like if they are in disadvantaged groups or any other circumstances, and also the elderly and the young people. This is the offer that we have that allows us to say that we have a public transportation system, a mobility system that is increasing its number of users year after year, and this goes beyond interoperability and is based on the integration of prices to guarantee this right to public transportation.
Nos han metido la mascarilla aquí.
¿La tienes allí?
Ah.
¿Puede ser? ¿Esa es? Eskerrik asko, Rafael.
Thank you so much, Rafaela. Thank you also for this fervent defense of the public transport, the most democratic one, universal, accessible. We have to protect it, we have to extend it in order to try to have this equity and social welfare in every layer of the population. Thank you, Rafaela. And now Luis Vélez is the Councillor of Movilidad Benavente in Valladolid, who's going to talk about a very successful case, Valladolid Green City, and probably we are going to talk about the integration of the active non-motorized mobility with the public transport, and also with the areas of forestation and vegetation in the city. So the floor is yours.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Okay, thank you so much. I make the most for making the same as Rafaela and taking the mask off and to feel a little bit more comfortable. Those of us who wear glasses, we've got that problem of this vapor coming into the glass. In order to make a prior diagnosis of the city of Valladolid, who has got 300,000 inhabitants, little bit less, with metropolitan surroundings of 100,000 more, 33% of the homes of the households in Valladolid do not have either car or motorbike, and 42% of the people do not even have a driving license or vehicle. In Valladolid, we have got 660,000 trips per day. More than half of them are made on foot, more or less 53%. Then 200,000 in a private vehicle, and then 86,500 in public transport, without taking into account this pandemic time, with a meaningful reduction, and we are around 30% of travelers regarding the ones we had in 2019, and others such as bicycle, vehicles of private mobility, which is a 4%. Those are 2.28% of trips per person and day. The time we devote to move, we do it in the quickest way on foot, and then in a particular vehicle. In the third place, in bicycle, in a vehicle of for private mobility, and it takes us longer in the public transport. So this has led us to make a diagnosis with some objective data, and this is that people use much too much the private vehicle for trips that are shorter than 4 kilometers, and 60% of these trips made by car in the city has got really just a less than 3 kilometers trajectory. There was insufficient public space both for the pedestrian and the cyclist, and cities had been thought of for the private vehicle, and there is still a lack of proportion between the space devoted to pedestrians and cyclists and the one devoted to the private vehicle. We had a cyclist network that was very wide, but with a discontinuity, with not many connections. It was not very comfortable. It wasn't very safe either, especially for those who want to use the bicycle in the daily trips. But they are not big experts cycling as the majority of the citizens. We had a low commercial speed of the public transport, especially because we didn't have a network of the rail of a space reserved for the public transport, both for the collective and both for the taxi. And there is a bigger trend to the private vehicle with the situation of the pandemics, and the reality is that now at the level of trips in private vehicle, we are at the level of the pre-pandemic time, but we haven't recovered the travelers we lost in the public transport in this 1.5 years yet, and we have to make an effort in order to recover them, and it's going to be very difficult to recover them. And let's hope that in the next one we can recover the things we have lost. And we have to say that we have started what we call Valladolid Green City, and due to the pandemic, technicians and politicians, all of us, gave a push to this initiative. And we are not inventing anything new because it had been approved in the different plans. But years had gone by, and due to different reasons and circumstances, it didn't start. So the general plan, the mobility plan, the integration of the railway, the urban agenda, and in many of them, these measures, we have denominated Valladolid Green City. They were compiled. And logically, in many projects we are working on right now, as the directive plan of the bicycle, as a complementary tool to the mobility plan, and also the plan of air improvement that is going to give rise to this area of low emissions in the city. So those are strategies and plans that in many cases had already been conceived a long time ago. We set up what we called Valladolid Green City, and I have to say that some weeks ago the Ministry of Transport and Ecological Transition acknowledged it with the prize, with the award of mobility of this European Week Sustainable in the year 2021, and no doubt about it, it was another piece of motivation to go on in this way. We were looking for general reasons in this strategy, so a balance and an entity of the public space, the improvement of the quality of air and the quality of life of our citizens, the innovation, digitalization of public transport. We search in this way where we're looking forward to consolidate a bigger space for the pedestrians, also to facilitate the existence of pedestrian itineraries in the cities and also in the outskirts of the city, in the different neighborhoods, to reinforce the cyclist infrastructure, enlarging the network, and especially connecting it to make it safer, to improve the network of buses, enlarging the taxi and the bus track, and to limit also the itineraries in car, for instance, to the main point of access to the center of the city with the bridge of Poniente, which had 3 parts of it. And right now, with the limitation of speed to 30 kilometers and with the inclusion of the bicycle, we have limited to just 1 part. And right now, we only have got the access of 8,000 vehicles. Most of them, they were not going to buy to the center of the city. They didn't generate any business in restaurants or in the different shops, because sometimes they say that, yeah, the shops are going to plummet, people are not going to come. This hasn't happened because those vehicles going through the center were just passing by. They were from one point to the other, from one neighborhood to another. But as it was easy, as it was comfortable to go through the center of the city, they didn't use other possibilities, other roads with a bigger capacity. But at this moment, habits have changed, and users and citizens have used other alternatives, so the center of the city is not unnecessarily overloaded. We have also looked for the development and for the boosting of some parking places that are convincing the people of not parking there. And of course, there are also some other mobility services, and we have taken them into account for the strategical solutions. And some of these issues, we have done it in a quick way, what it has been called in the last time the tactic urban system, with signalizing at a quite a low cost, that has allowed us to implement many routes, trucks and bicycle trucks in a very quick way. Some specific actions related to the recovery of the public space for the pedestrian. We have recovered 35,000 square kilometers at the center of the city with a space for pedestrians. Some places such as the main square and some streets have been transformed just into pedestrian areas, and there is an underground parking place under this main square, and you had to go through the whole square in order to have access to it, something we do not need to do now. We have removed all the vehicles outside the square. It is totally for pedestrians, and some other streets have become just for pedestrians too, and we have acquired a bigger quality of life for the neighbors and the citizens that are going for a walk at the center of the city. We have started with this vertical mobility, learning from cities such as Bilbao, for instance, from Santander. And I was talking to the councillor yesterday that for long years they have been experimenting these kind of elements in the cities. And Valladolid, although it is a very flat city, in general there is a neighborhood where we have installed 3 lifts, elevators. There are many old people, and there were steep flights of stairs, and they have improved their quality of life. And right now we are in a tender process for 2 lifts for 2 neighborhoods with a lot of population, 40,000 people. They are on a hill, and really accessibility is a big problem. And we are dealing with a project around 11 million euros, and we have also presented it to the call of the 22, and we hope we can have access to it. We have incremented the pedestrian itineraries in the squares, and we have recovered spaces in the school environments, because we think that it is something where we have advanced and we want to go into deeper in the future. So, regarding the cyclist infrastructure, they have enlarged the network. We are making a tender for new safe parking places and closed parking places for bicycles. We have got already one, but we want to have a wider network. I'm going to finish. And at this moment, we also have the second trial of public bicycle. That has been a failure too. We are going to start with the third one. I'm convinced, the same as Mr. Goya said, that it's going to be successful. We are a little bit behind. The concession finishes in the year 2023. And we hope that we can have a public service of bicycles of high quality and adapted to the needs of the citizens. And to finish with the public transport, which is something fundamental. We have lost a lot of travelers in this last 1.5 years, but we are adopting adopting many measures to offer a quality service for all the new needs demanded by the citizens, with a new ticketing system that we have started with, paying per mobile phone with credit card, something that we are going to enlarge to all the city, and in a couple of days we are going to recharge all these bonuses through the website. This has been demanded by the citizens, and also the renewal of the bus fleet. We have got right now a public municipal company 100%, and yesterday at the Council of Administration of the cities we were also setting up a framework agreement for electrical buses 33 for an amount of 24 million euros. And I think this is really a bet we have to make. There are some meetings, and we were talking in these meetings that it is very important to support the public transport. The economy of public transport in this country is having a rough time. We have to sustain, to support the companies, and I think that this injection of more than 400 million euros of Spain to cover the deficit of the year 2020 is something very good. All of us have to work together to join forces, especially the town halls, because we are the ones having the load of the debt, and we have to support the public transport because it is the present, but it must be the future too. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Luis. Thank you so much for your intervention, for having explained this example, the fantastic one of the city of Valladolid, and everything you are doing to foster both the pedestrian movement and the cyclist network and the public transport. We are going to give the floor right now to Lucas Casanovas. No, okay, Julio. Julio comes first. Okay, Julio. Julio Antuñano from I go to Argentina by bicycle. Thank you. If you are so kind. Do not worry at all. Do not worry at all. Julio, as there are not any audio of the video, yeah. Okay. Hi to all of you. I am Julio Antuñano, and I am the chairman of an NGO that is called I Travel by Bicycle, the first one in South America. It is an exciting one that is solving the social transport. What I want to say is that through a circular economy, we achieve that the people donating a bicycle, then this bicycle can have a second opportunity for a second person. So we started. Well, doesn't matter, it wasn't the video, but it doesn't matter. We can start here. How did we start? So the people called, or the people sent a WhatsApp with a photograph of her photograph and the location. We went there and we picked up the bicycle and we took it, to a general bicycle bank with different social groups that received the help and the bicycles. One of them were the dining rooms that existed in Argentina, the humble neighborhoods, and we call them villas or neighborhoods with scarcity, which are around the periphery of a city, in the outskirts of a city. When in the year 2020 pandemics started, we started with the project, and this speeded up all the processes in a great deal. So we started to take bicycles to the communities because they couldn't leave, they didn't have received the vaccination, they weren't essential staff, and usually the people working there is informal, so they couldn't justify where they had to go to work. So we gave them the bicycles, we took the bicycles to them so that they could go to work by bicycle. After that, we decided to set up a bank of bicycles to distribute in whole Argentina. This was something impossible. The problem of Argentina is the logistic and distribution, same as all over the world. So what did we decide? To start opening up bicycles bank in different cities. I cannot take a bicycle from Buenos Aires to Catamarca because the transport is more expensive than obtaining a bicycle close to me. So we started to open up bicycle banks in different communities. And from the different communities, we started to open the bicycles. We thought, who are the people who need them most? So Aborigine communities, we have got indigenous and Aborigine communities who live in the Misionero Mount, so 1,200 kilometers away from Buenos Aires. How can this boy go to study? It took him 6 kilometers just to take a pencil. So after having driven 6 kilometers and after having had breakfast, there is no equality of the opportunities. So he's starting with -10 on the blackboard. So what do we want with this project? To change realities. And this is it, to change realities. All of us, from our place, from the governance, from the NGOs, from companies, from the government, we have the need, the urgent need to reach a world of equal opportunities without giving anything for free. We don't give the bicycles for free. This is not a gift. We consider that in countries such as Latin America, gifts do not add anything. So only with effort you generate. You can help without giving a gift. We think it is not dignified to give a person a gift. We have to give them work and teaching. The best tool we can give to fight against poverty is education. This is the kind of fishing rod. As you saw previously, we are working with another foundation who's playing there, and we are going to leave this for the end because this is the most interesting thing, because you can say in a country with a smart city like this is for countries who are still developing. But no, because all of us are part from a community, and we have to know to win and win, how to win and win. What do I want to say with this? So one city nowadays can help another one. I live in a city that is a smart one, but if I go to a city, for instance, in Cordoba, where we are installing this process, Cordoba is a smart city, but 100 kilometers away from it, people do not have water, do not have gas, and do not have sewage. So these emerging economies in the world have got difficulties because of this lack of equality, poverty, and how can we find the balance? Because we consider that populism and give things away as a gift, this is not the thing. That's why we start from the very bottom, from the jails, to show the project. We get together with the people who are playing rugby, the Spartans, they are playing rugby, but people, and rugby is an element of joining people, but it's not a job. So we told them, let's work together. let's enter the jails, let's show this workshop of bicycles so that those who are in jail can have a possibility. And this is the way how every Thursday we go to the jail of San Martin. Those people who have got this transitory bracelet, who can leave the jail 2 days and then leave, they start to work in a bicycle workshop. And how? Because in this workshop, or the person who is employing an employee who is coming from the jail is not paying taxes, is not paying for safety or for hygiene. All of us have to win, because if this person who leaves the jail is not going to steal or to kill a family, this investment and this project is worth the while. And sometimes I feel so moved and I feel the emotion so high, because it is very difficult to cross this gap, and quite often in a home where you have got many resources, they are not used. And I have been struggling and fighting for long with this. And sometimes you are not watching a man crying, you are seeing a heart which is transpiring something different. This is not by chance that I'm here. It is because of a reason. It has been brought about. We in Argentina said that the word of a Basque person, and it seems unbelievable, but I really thank the mayor and the president of Petronor, the chairman of Petronor, for this opportunity. I would like Bilbao to be our skipping board, our jumping board, to generate many banks of bicycles in the world. We can generate many banks of bicycles. How did I do it in Argentina? We had nothing. I started from scratch. I'm not a clown. I didn't have a big pocket with money, taking it outside of it. I need the help of companies, of governments, of industries. It seems to be unbelievable. Bicycle is 200 years ago, but it's more contemporary than ever. And we have got another reality. I cannot regrettably talk about the electrical bicycles or electrical cars. There's another reality. Companies must really earn money, and we have to be thankful because they generate money and work. We have to be thankful for them. But why do governments do not help? Why don't they help the companies? And with their cooperation, we can change realities. And I invite you from the field where you are to see whether the United Nations, Euroclimate, they know the project, they love it. They told me that they didn't have any possibilities because in the year 2020, they gave many grants to these food banks. But I consider that locomotion for people of low resources, and I am working very much with women in jails. My aim is, or my objective is, and I invite all of you to spread the news and to apply this. You cannot imagine how different it is for a person, for a woman who's living in jail, especially in Latin America, because the ones who have got the strength are the women. And the women, when they leave this jail, they have to upkeep their family. Probably his husband is a drunk bar. And we have to help them. We are there. We want to implement this project in women jails. It's something fantastic. And for instance, the possibilities or the exits they have got in the dining rooms and in the places, in the gastronomy places, they are maintained by women. They are 220 young people who are gathering there for lunch and they go home. We started with the pandemics to deliver the things by bicycle so that infection was impossible. So we took the food, the rice or pasta. So look at it, how we can change reality, generating different banks of bicycles in different parts of the world. Why? Because I am in Amsterdam or in a Chinese city. Really, there are many, there are an excess and there is a saturation of bicycles. So if there are many of them, we as an organization, we can start here. The world must know where there is a superávit of bicycle. And in order not to spend money on logistic and distribution, to say, okay, for instance, here I am in Bilbao. Let's imagine that Bilbao and San Sebastian need bicycles. Everything together just on one sheet. I'm sending them to you because I have many that are left. And for instance, in South America, we can do it too. We can do it in Africa. So this super rabbit, this excess of bicycles can be even taken in a container. A bicycle can change the reality of somebody else, but it is not a gift. We deliver it to this person. I give you a bicycle. I give you a bicycle for you to look for a job. When you obtain the job, please, you have to let us know and you have to pay for it, or either you have to give it back. This generates progress, and this is something people have to understand. And if people are not going to understand it, this is the reason why the reality we have got now. So effort, education, and work. We have to give tools to people, and these bicycles workshops that we are establishing in many places. For instance, together with Damian Priest, who is the priest of a jail of St. Nicholas, and he is showing the boys who are on drugs and the boys who are left how to work on the mechanics of this bicycle. They already have got a job in order to help somebody. We need some containers, and we don't have to think of a smart city. If you have a multinational company and you are thinking, how can I help this municipality? We have just to set a container and to take the bicycles. Then we cannot talk about sustainability to these people, but we are educating them for this climate change, and they are going to have a possibility. So this is what I want to do, to change reality. So I thank you for this possibility. And am I okay with time? I have run out of it, okay. And I want to thank the opportunity, and sorry for my tears. And what isn't done with passion can't be done. This is the word of a Basque man, and I commit myself, if you help me, to try to change this reality through bicycles. Thank you so much.
Muchas gracias, Julio. La verdad es que tu emoción es la de todos.
Well, good morning, Julio. You are emotional as well as we are all emotional, and we will try to convince some cities in Spain to extend your project. Thank you very much, and I really mean it. And the last intervention by Lucas Casanova from SEAT.
Bueno, pues muchas gracias y desde luego muchas gracias, Julio.
Well, thank you very much, and thanks, Julio, for this presentation, which has been great, very interesting for all of us, with lots of passion into it. Not only thinking about the future, but also thinking about how to manage the present, which is a critical situation in many places of the world, such as Argentina, as you have mentioned. So thanks for this lesson based on your experience, on your current experience, your real life, that sometimes here in Spain, in places like Bilbao, one of the best cities in Spain, we do not know about those problems. And then what I had to say, today we're on this panel of mobility of people that should be sustainable and accessible. And I wanted to explain from the perspective of SEATMO what we understand by mobility, sustainable and accessible mobility of people. So I'm going to give you the point of view of the private sector. We have heard presentations supporting the public sector and some modes of transportation. I would also to add our perspective to give just a different flavor, to put some Tabasco into this panel. We agree with something you have said, which is that mobility is an essential right, as essential as housing or employment. But we believe it should be multimodal. So defunding just one type or another type of transportation, we understand this is not universal because each individual has different needs and different wishes. So this must adapt to the individual rights and wishes of every individual. And we believe this is important because that means we have to put in the center the citizens. So we need to know which is the best way to move from A to B. And this best way is not the same one for every different individual. So we believe this interoperability, intermodality is very important. What do we understand by sustainable? For us today, sustainable means 100% electric, especially in terms of transportation of people. If we think of heavy-duty transportation, hydrogen maybe is not feasible. It's not it won't work as well as electric. So we need electric cars, but should be based on renewable energies. But also when we think of sustainability, for us it means that the technology behind it should be sustainable. So electric transportation, is it here to stay or is just a phase? Well, we believe it will be with us for 20, 30 years, but we also need sustainability from the point of view of regulations and from the point of view of the administration. We need some legal reliability to be sure that the solutions of mobility that we implement have a sustainability in time. But also, mobility must be not only sustainable, but also accessible. And in order to be accessible, it must be which is the best solution to go from A to B. Because for us, if we are focusing on citizens, if citizens are the center, we think it's not right to say if you want to go from A to B, you have to go through C. That doesn't make sound. That doesn't make sense. So there should be a mobility that allows the citizen to go door to door in the best way possible. So for us, it is important to connect all modes of transportation, of mobility, by walking, cycling, car, bus, or railroad. And then there should be intermobility and interoperability. And another thing that's important for us is that it is affordable. It's been also said here, it should not be a luxury to have the possibility to move from one point to another. Should be affordable. We understand that buying a car is getting increasingly inaccessible, inaffordable. Cars are more expensive. They have more technology, more sensors, but they are also less accessible to some parts of the population. So it should be accessible. So the solution is the solution subsidize public transportation? Well, we don't think that's a solution. If we think of a collaboration, of a partnership, public and private partnership, the private part there is there to make money. If we make money, we generate wealth. And sometimes if we combine both, we could have a public transportation that maybe it's not a bus or a train, might be a bike or a shared car. We could have public transportation that's accessible and that it makes money so that there could be other resources for other things like health, schools, etc. And then it must also be easy. Well, technology allows us to integrate in a very simple way all modes of transportation, both public and private transportation. So we do this all the time. We transfer money without going to the bank. We use Bizum or PayPal. So why should we have mobility where we have to go and buy tickets? Everything could be integrated in the smartphone. Public transportation and private transportation. And we also think that mobility should be serious. And there should be a commitment. This is not about startups looking for a cling from economic value. There must be some seriousness to be able to provide a quality service to citizens. And in this sense, from SEAT Code, SEAT Mode, which is the development unit for the mobility platform at SEAT, we are focusing on electric micromobility solutions that they use as less public space as possible. We want to build electric cars in the future. Of course, we focus also on shared mobility, which allows higher rotation of vehicles so that you need less vehicles in the city,
de vehículos total.
which is very good for the city. And of course, what we say is this mobility must be affordable. So we were manufacturing cars at SEAT, and then we thought we should give more accessibility to this mobility to young people, and we started to make electric scooters, electric cars, sharing options, subscription systems, so some mechanisms of accessible mobility. And also it should be easy. So we are developing a mobility platform where we have scooters, cars, motorbikes, car services, and this is already a reality in Barcelona. We are doing this. We have the sharing program. We are selling scooters, motorbikes, and now we are extending these integrated mobility services in Igualada, and we are also offering shared mobility services to companies. So we are offering this to companies to improve the mobility of their employees. And our new focus will be environment. We have to protect the environment. We must be a part of this new awareness about climate change. Of course, this is a serious problem, especially in cities, and we need to collaborate with the public sector to improve cities. And also, we care about people, and we are doing this for the people. Basically, this is what I had to say. Thanks. Well, thanks, Lucas, for observing the schedule. I will try and summarize what we have seen here today. As you know, now at 12 we've got the signing ceremony in the main hall. So I'll ask you to go there after this. I'd like to thank the panel members for their contribution. Eneco, the mayor of San Sebastián, has pointed out how important it is to rethink about mobility, rethinking also the uses of the public spaces. We have to give space back to citizens if we want less cars to access the city. So we should focus on active mobility or non-motorized mobility, because they have the ability to increase the accessibility in the territory. If we think also of the suburban areas, this is what the Parliament member Rafaela has said. She has presented the experience in the public transportation service in San Sebastián and Guipúzcoa. And public transportation is very important for fixing population, and it's a totally democratic transportation means. Then the councillor of the City Hall of Valladolid, José Luis Valdez, has presented what they are doing in Valladolid. They are doing a great work supporting active mobility, which is totally in line with what it's being done in San Sebastián. They got these cycling routes and walking routes, safe streets, also some actions to improve the quality of air, the decarbonization, and also this Green Valladolid program. This is very important. It is not only about accessibility. We should think also of green areas in the city. The goal is to reduce also the passing traffic. He has explained how they have been able to reduce this traffic through the city. Then Julian Tuñano from Boy and Bici has given a very emotional presentation explaining what they are doing in Argentina. We really thank you for your effort for improving the social cohesion and working with disadvantaged groups. And he was asking from the support of cities or territories. And what do you think, Alcalde? I think we could give him a hand so he can bring his project to Spain. And also, we have this initiative, Multi-Hub, where we bring together many startups together with administration, with big corporations, and also municipalities and city halls. And Julio, I'd like to tell you now, I will try and help you to introduce your program here in Spain with us. And finally, Lucas Casanova from SEADMO, he wanted to give us a different point of view where he was defending the point of view of the private sector. Because, of course, we all understand that it is very important to have public transportation services, but also companies have a lot to say with solutions like micro-mobility, mobility on demand, and there are also corporations like SEAT that are focusing on these options and working with intermodality, with PPP, so that we can deliver services to these citizens and to have these citizens be the center of these initiatives. So to wrap up, I'll ask for a round of applause for the panel members. Thank you very much.